Good morning, Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington, Monday, the 21st of September. Autumn begins from an astrological standpoint sometime in the next 24 hours. It actually occurs within the calendar day of September 22, first day of fall. However, meteorologists will say that really it's more like September, October, November. Those 3 months constitute fall as far as the weather is concerned. So we've got the calendar that has to do with the Earth and its axial tilt rotating around the sun. And then we've got what actually happens here on the planet, which is nonetheless related to the amount of solar energy coming onto the planet. And as we receive less, gradually, as you know, things cool off. We are in, right now, the end of that warmest to beginning to cool off quarter, and now we'll go from the cool to the coldest, and the coldest quarter then really is December, January, and February, even though we say the actual solstice isn't until the 21st. And they've known about solstices and equinoxes for thousands of years. Stargazers were around in the time of Jesus, as we know. A group of them visited Jesus when he was perhaps up to 2 years old, as we were told in the Gospel of Matthew, the Magi. So mathematicians have been around for a long time. But for us, probably the Farmer's Almanac, or just simply farmers looking, and they know what the soil is doing. One of the kids that I confirmed years ago, he's no longer a kid, he's quite the adult, and chose to get an education at the University of Washington, came back and is working in the valley. Someone very, very proud of spending the time out there in the soil, in the vineyards and the orchards and the farms, testing soil temperature, soil content, soil moisture, all the nutrients, what is the air, what is the water, all of the things that go into modern agribusiness, modern farming, which nonetheless still relies on the warmth of the soil from the sun, the moisture caused by the rain, the snow, and the canals, and the magic that happens between soil and seed to produce all the things that we love to eat. Wow. So we, I think, in rural areas are in a sense more connected to parts of the biblical world, the rural kinds of things. Not that there wasn't a lot of city activity. In fact, the big things in Jesus' life happened in this city, in Jerusalem, or in the smaller cities, Capernaum, sometimes in Nazareth even. And what happens in the city is usually full of strife, it seems. What happens in the countryside, that's where Jesus did most of his teaching, where he gave the parables, where he did the feeding of people, where he taught them how to pray. So for us, we are blessed to be able to live in this area, to watch the seasons, to watch things coming and going. My garden is gradually going to sleep. The lawn is not using much water anymore. So irrigation will be shut off here fairly soon. We have irrigation even though we're on top of a hill. We have senior water rights going back to 1902. Wow, yeah. And we do use it because we do pay for it. Now, back to the story of Joseph in chapter 45 of the book of Genesis, working our way to the end of Genesis in the next few days. Joseph could no longer control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried out, "Send everyone away from me." Well, he's now in a private room, the dining room, with just his brothers. No one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. He wept so wildly, the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. So when they say, "Get out and close the door behind you," what they mean is that woven mat that we call a door. Yeah, go ahead and close that. And then the servants on the other side are no doubt listening, because that's what servants do. They would have to report to Pharaoh anything that would be untoward, as they say. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me." Oh, wait, let's go back a verse. Joseph said to his brothers, "I'm Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him. They were dismayed at his presence. "I'm your dead brother." "Ha! Really?" Well, of course they couldn't answer him. They're in shock. It's been 20 years. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me." They came closer. He said, "I'm your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine that has been in the land these 2 years, there are 5 more years in which there will be no plowing or harvest. God sent me before you to preserve you, a remnant on earth, to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler over the land. Hurry up and go to my father and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down and do not delay. You shall settle in the land of Goshen. You shall be near me, you and your children's children, as well as your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. I'll provide for you there, since there are 5 more years of famine to come, so that you, your household, and all that you have will not come to poverty. And now your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see that it is my own mouth that speaks to you. You must tell my father how greatly I am honored in Egypt, all that you have seen. Hurry, bring my father down here.' He fell upon Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept. And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them, and after that his brothers talked with him." Well, that's great. Wonderful family reunion. Now verse 16. When the report was heard in Pharaoh's house, sure enough, they were listening at the mat and ran off and told the household of Pharaoh, and they got news to Pharaoh. "Joseph's brothers have come," they said. Pharaoh and his servants were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Say to your brothers, do this, load your animals and go back to the land of Canaan. Take your father and your household. Come to me so that I may give you the best of the land of Egypt. You may enjoy the fat of the land." You are further charged to say, "Do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and your wives. Bring your father and come. Give no thought to your possessions, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours." Well, this is what you call a happy ending. Wow. Now they can all live not in the land of Canaan that God gave to them, but in the land of Goshen in Egypt, in the territory of Pharaoh, right in the shadow of all the Egyptian gods. You see a possible problem with this. The sons of Israel did so. Joseph gave them wagons according to the instructions of Pharaoh. He didn't go with them, notice. Each of them he gave a set of garments, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver, 5 sets of garments. To his father he sent the following: 10 donkeys loaded with good things of Egypt, 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, provisions for his father on the journey. Then he sent his brothers on their way, and as they were leaving, he said, "Do not quarrel along the way." Curious, that note. Why that note? Do not quarrel along the way. What would they quarrel about? Maybe whether or not they should be moving to Egypt? Maybe whether or not they should trust Joseph? Yeah. So they went up out of Egypt and came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. And they told him, "Joseph is still alive. He's even ruler over all the land of Egypt." Israel was stunned. He could not believe them. And they told him the words of Joseph that he had said to them. And when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. Israel said, "Enough, my son Joseph is alive. I must go see him before I die." Oh, Israel now has a bucket list. Wow. The son he thought he lost, he has gained again, and he must see him before he dies. So you have a bucket list, I have a bucket list, maybe. But more importantly, autumn is coming, as I said. What do you need to do? What's on your short list? What are the things that have to happen within the next few weeks as you begin winterizing, as you begin making that transition from the season of growing to the season of harvest to the season of the land sleeping? Do you go through your clothes? You change the summer out for the winter, get out the long sleeve shirts and sweaters and jackets and coats and hats and gloves and things like that. Change the beds, go through the house, and what else do you do? See you tomorrow from the church.